and shared on. Molca means hidden camera and is now synonymous with the secret filming of images of a sexual nature. Unsuspecting victims can even find themselves surreptitiously filmed in public toilets. The supply and demand of such imagery is endemic here and rising since 2008. For women in Korea, the fear of having their privacy invaded in public spaces is pervasive. And university campuses often find themselves a prime target. Tongshin Women's University has so far successfully evaded Molca cameras on its premises through a determined campaign of vigilance by students like Chun Soo-min and Han Soo-jin. I want to hear from them as to how this shadow of intrusion hangs over their daily lives. When you go into a bathroom, is the first question in your head wondering if there's cameras around? Do you check?
저도 휴지로 그런 구멍 같은 거를 이렇게 한번 쑤셔서 안 보이게 가린다던가, 그리고 뭔가 되게 이상한 장소에 카메라가 많이 숨겨져 있다고 해서 그런 인터넷에서 리스트 같은 게 있는데 그런 걸 보고 한 번씩은 확인하고 볼일을 본다던가 이런 걸 먼저 생각하고 있습니다.
How big is this problem exactly of illegal cameras in bathrooms and showers?
일단 아무래도 이런 불법 촬영이라는 것이 일상적인 모습이 되게 이런 포르노적으로 소비되고 있는 것이 대상화의 일종이라고 생각하고 있기 때문에 그런 것들이 가장 큰 문제점이지 않을까. 누군가에게는 평범한 일상이
I'm just trying to get a sense of how this might impact the daily life of a woman here.
그 주변에 아는 남성분들에게 물어봤을 때는 남자 화장실에는 구멍 같은 것도 없다고 하고 그런 불법 카메라가 설치됐을 수도 있는 자국이 없다고 하는데 충분히 여자 화장실 가다 보면은 그런 자국들이 많기 때문에 황당하고 화나고 그런 기분이 제 개인적인 느낌인 것 같습니다.
Of the 16,201 people arrested between 2012 and 2016 for making illegal recordings, 98% were men. 84% of the 26,000 recorded victims over that period were women. So how does one avoid being a victim? And if technology has created the problem, can it also provide the solution?
천장에 있는 나사, 그리고 보통 카메라를 이렇게 변기가 보이는 위치에다 놓기 때문에
I'm in South Korea to explore the huge impact of technology on Korean culture. Although tech has helped the country make significant economic advancements, it's also unleashed and propelled a darker aspect of society. Digital crime is on the rise, with an average of nearly 7,000 cases of hidden camera or spy cam porn reported annually since 2015. Privacy in public spaces, and even at home, can't be taken for granted anymore. A growing number of women like Kim Ji-won are letting their voices be heard against rampant, voyeuristic sexual harassment. As a brand manager to a company promoting positive sexual relationships, she's been privy to a lot of private insights.
아무래도 전통적으로 한국의 여성들이 그런 남자친구와의 관계에서도 촬영을 하면 거부하지 못하고, 그리고 더군다나 그래서 거부하지 못하는 것 때문에 내가 찍히고 있어도 좀 쉽게 노라고 말하지 못하는 그런 것들이 있어서 몰카 그냥 이런
벽에 벽면에 있는 몰카들뿐만 아니라 실제로 파트너와의 관계에서도 몰카가 많이 찍히고 있는데 좀 그런 것들이 아무래도 한국 전통적으로 여성들이 주체적인 존재가 아니라 수단으로 존재했기 때문에 목소리가 작았기 때문에 내가 쉽게 노를 외치지 못하는 것이 아직까지도 이어지고 있다고 생각을 해요. 그래서 몰카라는 것이 여전히 범죄가 되어가고 있는 거고요.
Personally, for you, how do you feel when you go into these like public bathrooms and spaces, knowing that there might be a camera?
아무래도 그런 매스컴에서 나오는 그런 사건들이 많다 보니까 스스로도 공용 화장실은 가지 않는다라는 생각을 좀 하고 있어요. 그리고 되도록이면 여자친구들과 같이 혼자는
소형 불법 카메라 렌즈가 있어서
너무
요런
작아요.
네네 요런 게 이제 벽면이라든지 이런 그림 이런 데 어두운 데에 이 렌즈만 안 보이게끔을 카메라 부분에 대고 플래시를 온 해서 움직이면서 하면은 노출이 되게 돼 있습니다.
So it comes up as white. These little cute guys are very dangerous.
The MoleGuard cards work in conjunction with the flash from a smartphone, creating infrared rays which detect light emanating from hidden cameras invisible to the naked eye.
Your cover's been blown, teddy bear. In the long run, what do you think needs to be done in order to reduce or to stop all these illegal camera crimes?
몰카는 사라지지 않을 거라고 봅니다. 만드는 사람도 수요가 있으니까 만드는 거고 또 있으니까 또 판매를 하고 구입을 하고 이게 악순환인 것 같아요. 그런 와중에서 방어만이 최선의 방법이라고 생각을 하고
Cheon-do is not alone in his desire to protect the public. Recognizing the destructive nature of this crime, the government has assembled a dedicated task force of 8,000 people to sweep public toilets for hidden cameras at least once a month. But with over 20,000 public restrooms in Seoul alone, it's challenging to keep up. Today, I'm joining a member of the police task force, Han Hyo-in, as she tackles a bathroom camera sweep in the Songbuk district.
이건 사실 이렇게 반경을 얘가 잡고 있는 거라서 갖다 대기보다는 그냥 이렇게 두고 이 영상이 안 뜨면 없는 거예요. 어두운 데에서 더 잘 보이고 있어요.
네.
뭔가 카메라를 설치가 되어 있을 만한 장소를
So like
일부러
these
서치를 하고
little
있습니다.
screws, these little like latches.
그리고 천장에 있는 나사.
Okay.
네, 그리고 보통 카메라를 이렇게 변기가 보이는 위치에다 놓기 때문에 여기를 기준으로 보일 수 있는 장소를 저희가.
So it's a good sign.
네,
There's nothing happening.
네.
How do you find the criminals, the people who install the cameras?
카메라를 설치한 사람들은 설치를 해서 잘 작동하는지 보기 위해서 확인을 작업을 하시잖아요. 그래서 불법 촬영 카메라를 설치를 한다면 그 촬영 영상물을 초반에 그 가해자가 찍히는 경우도 있고 지문 감식이라든지 아니면 CCTV 추적을 통해서 범죄자를 찾고 있습니다. 모든 범죄는 흔적을 남깁니다. 흔적이 없는 범죄는 없습니다.
Definitely one of the backlashes to how hyper-connected this country is the toxicity that has flourished in the internet world and the subcultures that are found online, where voyeurism is something that becomes a norm, especially because it does target more vulnerable populations like women who have to live with this constant anxiety and threat in the back of their heads that maybe wherever they might go, into a bathroom or into a shower or into a public space, that they might be violated. And that is something very terrifying to live with.
Hello, good morning to all of you. So
Good morning, sir.
Hey, how are you doing? So I hope everybody is well and healthy. That's the most important thing. So we're going back to this lecture. So let me just bring up the slides. And before that, we just want to do some recap about last week. So last week we talked about defining the core, right? So I give a lot of examples about 99 Speed Mart, AirAsia, Grab, and a lot of other examples, right? So Apple and so on. So we have watched a few videos as well. And also we talk about how to chart your competitive position with respect to your competitors, right? So I think many startups are actually working on, how to say, you are working on something very new, and therefore, where could you find your competitors, right? So sometimes your competitors are not very clear. And when you enter a new market, new segment, you probably would not have clear competitor in that segment itself until you are trying to establish your footprint in that segment. But I think it's also very important that you look into the potential threats, right? The potential competitor that who is likely to enter your market, right? So that's where you want to chart your competitive position as part of your step 11, right? So it's still coming back to the DE24 steps here. So let me just bring up the slides in a moment, and then we'll be watching a few videos about Bill Olet. And Bill has been giving a lot of lectures recently. And also there are some new video editions posted on MIT Bootcamp YouTube channel. So I'm going to share that in a short while, okay? So anyway, let me just share my entire screen, I think for easier view. Okay, so I hope you can see my whole desktop. Let me just shut this down. Okay, so come back to the DE24 steps. We are almost half the journey. Last week, we also mentioned about the DMU, the decision making unit. Who is actually your customer? Who is actually buying from you, right? I gave one example about Eugene, right? The potential Quest students who are coming into the MBBS program. So we talk about, who are the DMUs within Eugene's circle, right, of influence. So Eugene has a girlfriend, then the girlfriend is basically the champion because the girlfriend is already signed up with Quest. He has also a bunch of good friends who are actually the influencers, right? So these are the key influences in Eugene's decision making. And of course, the father is basically the economic buyer because the father will have to pay for Eugene's tuition fee moving forward. And the mom, right? So the mom is especially the person with veto power, right? So she makes all the decisions in the house, and of course she has the veto power to veto whatever decisions that Eugene and her families has made, right? So this is basically the DMU. I think there's actually one slide on that. And then we went on to talk about mapping the customer acquisition process. I've shown you some examples of how do you make purchases on Shopee, and then how do you actually map the buying process from the company point of view, right? So how do you actually acquire customer, right? So this is very different from the use case that we have mentioned in the past, whereby you are required to develop the full life cycle use cases in step number 6, which is the full life cycle use cases is very focusing on how do you use the product rather than how do you buy the product, right? So that's significantly different from step number 6 versus step number 13, right? So step number 13 is basically focusing on how do you actually get the customer to sign up to become your product user, right? So that's way before they use your product, okay? So it's very different from step number 6. So don't get confused between step number 6 and step number 13. So it's basically catering for different needs here. Okay. Now this week we're going to focus on basically four other processes, which is color coded in green. You can see that there's step number 15, 16, 17, and 19, right? So skip the 18 first. We'll come to that later on. So we're going to do step 15 to 19, which is firstly designing your first business model. You probably have identified your customer. You probably know how they are making purchases, going through the DMU, and then you probably have designed the customer acquisition process. So now this is the time that you have to design a business model. How do you actually charge your customer, right? How do you actually make business, right, out of this, right? Because Bill Ohlert once said, the fundamental reason for a company to exist is to have a paying customer, right? So this came up in the quiz last week. I hope you remember this. And you can find this on the textbook, yeah? So all the answers in your quiz last week can be found on your textbook, right? So apart from Grab and apart from those examples like Airbnb, but the rest of the theoretical questions that you have seen in your quiz can be found on your textbook, right? And your workbook as well. So don't ask me, where does all these questions come from, but it's all from your textbook, right? So anyway, coming back to step number 15, we'll do a deep dive into designing the business model, because there are vastly different ways or different considerations that we have to make with regards to designing a business model, right? So this is how a lot of startup and tech companies out there actually spend quite a fair bit of time designing their business model, which is to give them a more sustainable leeway. Now, the pricing framework. So in step number 16, we'll look into different pricing principles. So I think Bill have actually uploaded 6 different videos, if I can remember, the 6 different videos talking about different principles. We'll just briefly go through that, right? Just to give you an idea how do you want to come up with your pricing mechanism, right? So there are especially different ways to come up with different pricing rather than just cost-based pricing, which is pretty common to a lot of companies out there. Then we'll learn how to calculate the LTV. LTV stands for lifetime value of your customer. Let's say I have one customer who keep buying from me, right? And the lifetime value for this customer is going to maybe extrapolate over time, you see. So it's not going to buy from me just for once. He's buying from me like every month, or every single hour, or in every occurrence. When you finish using the product, you have to start refilling the products, right? So it's just like many fast consumer moving goods in the market, like you are buying shampoos, or you are buying your Sensodyne or toothpaste, right? So this is something that you have to refill, right, when it is finished. So the lifetime value for each segment is going to be very different. So there's specific formulas to calculate that. And that comes to the last one, which is not Coca-Cola. We're not trying to basically have some Coke towards in the step 19, but this is Coca. Coca stands for the cost of customer acquisition, right? So we talk about how do you acquire customer. You actually spend some marketing costs, you spend some on advertisements, you spend some on basically building a new channel and so on and so forth, right? So if you divide that up to all your customers, having the same cost, like for example, you spend $500 just to acquire your customer, right? So doing some advertisements, right? You spend $500 just to advertise. Now, in that $500 that you spend, you got 500 customer back, right? So you got 500 customer back from your investment. So actually, the Coca for the Coca is basically the cost of acquiring customer, right? It basically comes at $1 per customer, because you spend $500 on advertisements, and with that $500, you get back 500 customers, right? So actually, you divided that up, the total cost that you have spent on advertisements divided by the total customer that you get from that campaign itself. So the cost of acquiring customer is actually $1 per customer. Okay, so it's very simple formula, but again, we're looking into the formulas, right, on how to calculate the COCA in a more granular way. Okay, so yeah, let's move on. Blah, blah, blah. All right, so this is something that we're going to skip step 14 for temporarily. We'll come back to that, right, in a second. So step number 15, right? So here the amount of time spent on creating value innovation versus the spending the right amount of time, capturing the innovations, right? So you have spent like 100 hours creating a wonderful product, wonderful service, right? So you probably need to design a business model to capture the value of how the customer is going to pay you, right? For the value of your product. Let's say your product is $100, 100 ringgit. You probably want to design a business model to capture the maximally 100 ringgit, right? So that your customer can pay 100 ringgit, maybe over time, maybe over a few installments. We do not know yet, but you have to design a business model such that you want to capture that value, okay, in the long term. And designing the business model is something that you have to review, right? And then to consider different types of getting the customer paying for their products, okay? So that's basically the ultimate reason why we need to design a business model. And because this will literally affect your downstream, right? So the calculations of how much you want to spend for your advertisements, your marketing campaign. If if your customer is paying peanuts, right? So it's going to make a lot of sense that this customer is going to give you a huge lifetime value. Okay, so the way how you design the business model will affect the way how you're going to spend on your marketing, on your advertising, and so on and so forth, right? So that will affect your cost of acquiring customer, and in the long term, it will also affect your lifetime value of your customer, right? So if you are actually capturing a very tiny portion of your customer, making your customer pay, right? A tiny portion of what your customer is going to pay, your long-term lifetime value is going to be very, very tiny, right? So it's like over 2 years, if my customer is like paying me a few cents, in the long term, even like 10 years, right? So it's not going to make a lot of profit, like with this customer, so to speak. So the lifetime value for that customer itself is going to be very, very small, right? So and it's not really worthwhile to be investing in this kind of business. Okay. So now it also affects your pricing, right? Because the way that you design a business model on how to charge your customer will affect the price point, right? So this will be something that we have to consider in building a sustainable business model, so that at least as a company you can survive in long term, and at least it looks attractive for other investors to come in, right, to invest into your business in the longer term. What types of business model are there to capture value, right? So that there are basically like different ways we can charge a customer. I'm going through all these business model one by one by drawing some examples from the web. So one-time upfront charge, right? So this is like, wow, this is very, very, very common that we hear this, right? One-time upfront charge. Like, it's just like buying any consumer goods out there. You are letting your customer pay upfront, right? So you order the food in the food court, you make payment first. In certain food court you actually make payment first, like at McDonald's, right? At McDonald's, at KFC, at Domino's and Pizza Hut, right? You actually make one-time upfront payment first before you even get the food, isn't it? So you got to make payment first, you got to pay first, and then wait for your food to be served. So that's basically what does it mean by one-time upfront charge. And this is also very commonly seen in software, right? So if you buy a Microsoft Office, of course, the genuine one, right? You don't want to get the pirated ones. Your Microsoft Office, you have to make one-time upfront charge. So it costs you 256 ringgit just to get a Microsoft Office license, and you got to pay Microsoft upfront, right? So you got to pay the 256 ringgit upfront to Microsoft, and you get a license key, right? So they give you a license key after you make the payment, and this is basically one-time upfront charge. And of course, Microsoft actually give you some warranty period, right? Like 1 year warranty, is free upgrades, free maintenance for 1 year, and you know you don't have to pay anything as part of the maintenance period, right? It's the same for buying a car, right? So I think I don't want to go into the automobile industry because it's very easy to understand that you have to make the upfront payment, and then the rest of the maintenance fee, they will give you 5 years maintenance, free service, and so on, right? If you are buying a Mazda, for example, so they give you like 5 years delivery for free, and you don't have to pay or fork out a single cent just to pay for your maintenance. And this is also very common for a common device that we use, right, in the market. Like everybody has smartphones. So recently you hear that Apple has launched iPhone 13, right? So in fact, Apple actually, also use this one-time upfront charge model, okay? You cannot be using the iPhone for free, okay? You have to actually purchase the iPhone for 5,000 ringgit, you know, the latest one, iPhone 13 Pro. And that costs you maybe 4,399 or close to 5,000 ringgit, depending on the configurations. And Apple give you one time, basically you have to pay one time to Apple. And then, of course, you pick up the device. It comes with 1 year Apple Care warranty, right? It comes with 1 year free Apple Care, right? So that's part of the deal. So for the first year, it's free. But if you want to extend your Apple Care, for the second year onwards, you got to pay for a small amount fee, right? Just to maintain the Apple Care maintenance service, right? You extend the warranty for another year. You actually extend the parts and services fee for another year under Apple Care program. So that comes as additional charges. After the one-time payment, if for second year you want to extend your warranty period, you have to pay extra, right? So that's basically how Apple charge you the one-time fee plus the maintenance fee for second year onwards. Now, let's talk about licensing. Licensing is very interesting for company that holds patent, right? I would say that most of the vaccines right now is being sold or is being manufactured based on licensing fee, right? So I've I've come up with this vaccine formula, right? So this is my recipe, okay? This is my recipe. And I'll talk about a secret recipe later, yeah. So they actually works as a licensing as well. So let's say if you are selling vaccines actually comes as an innovation, right? It's especially an innovation, right? If you see it, it's a medical innovation. And all these formulas or recipes or therapy will be sort of like protected by some sort of patent or some sort of proprietary know-how, right? So you can actually patent it, or you can actually apply a trademark to it, right? So a trademark like McDonald's, right? You can see a trademark. Microsoft, you can see a trademark. So those are basically something comes under licensing, right? So it's very easy to spot companies that are selling licensed products because typically the patent holder might not be the one who manufacture the products, right? Let's say, like my company, Simplify, has a patent, right? Our patent is to let mobile devices like smartphones, tablets, to connect to Wi-Fi without having to enter a password, right? So the Wi-Fi has a password, but our technology allows your mobile devices to connect to a Wi-Fi without a password, and we patent this technology, right? So no one in the world has this technology, but Simplify has this technology, and we have patented this in Malaysia and also the US. So we have a US patent that grants us the technology whereby you can install a small program in your phone, and that allows you to connect to a secure Wi-Fi without having to enter the password on your screen, right? It's like, wow, I never heard about this technology, and that technology belongs to Simplify. So Simplify might not be the company to go and sell this technology, to go and promote this technology. We might not be the one. So as a matter of option, we can actually sell this technology to Samsung. We can license this technology to Microsoft. We can also license this technology to Xiaomi, right? To Huawei, to whoever who manufacture the smartphones, even Apple, right? So that they can embed this technology so that iPhone can use, right? It's authorized to use our license and implement this technology in the iPhone to let iPhone users to connect to any Wi-Fi in the world without having to punch in any password, right? So we can actually do a licensing agreement with all these device manufacturers like Apple, Samsung, Google, Android, and so on and so forth, to license to them our technology, right? So in the fact is that Simplify is not selling this technology to the consumers, but we're licensing this technology to the device manufacturer, who is our customer. Okay, so this comes under the licensing part. Now let's talk about Secret Recipe, right? You know, Secret Recipe back, you know, wonderful cakes, right? So their cheesecake is very famous. Their chocolate indulgence cake is very famous as well. So, well, of course they call it Secret Recipe, right? Because they have special formula, right, to bake their cakes, their signature cakes, right? So now you can see that Secret Recipe, you know, they have been expanding as part of business. They opened a franchise, you know, in every corner of the town, and that also comes as a licensing, right? So if you want to be my franchisee, you have to apply for a franchisee license. You know, this is the headquarters, the Secret Recipe headquarters is actually selling the license, right? You know that this is really how they can scale their business in a very fast and scalable manner, right? They want to scale, they want to grow in the quickest time possible. And the way to do this is really to go with licensing. Instead of like trying to open up every single store myself, right? You know, I have to fork out capital investment. I have to really think about where do I have to open my store, right? In every part of the town in Malaysia, for example. I decided to give it as a license. So you apply as a licensee, right? So whoever wants to open the Secret Recipe in your hometown, right? Let's say in Taiping or in Telok Intan, you think that there's a business potential to open up another Secret Recipe in Telok Intan, okay? You can actually apply for license, right? So I want to reach out to this Secret Recipe headquarters, which is based in SSU, and you want to apply for the license, right? So they'll tell you that, oh, you fill out a form, you know, to become a franchisee license. They'll actually evaluate the potential of opening up another Secret Recipe branch in Telok Intan, right? They look at the population, the spending of the people there, and then they also have to evaluate you, right? So as a person who wants to carry their license in Telok Intan, make sure that you have the money to pay, and make sure that you also have the money to sustain the business in the long run, right? So they want to ensure that. So I think a lot of these franchisee or franchise company like Chatime, you probably heard about Chatime. You also probably heard about T-Life, right? T-Life, right? Actually, T-Life was a split from Chatime, right? So Chatime is the master franchise from Taiwan, okay? So they carry the brand of Chatime, right? And in fact, at that time, I think there's this company in Malaysia that licensed Chatime in Malaysia. They have a dispute, right? So the master franchise, Chatime, do not want to renew the contract with this company in Malaysia. So that's why I think now you can see that there are two brands here. You have Chatime, which is the master franchise from Malaysia. And now you can see that they actually have another company called T-Life, which is because of the dispute in licensing, the master franchisor do not want to renew the contract of this company, and therefore they have no choice just to come up with a new brand. Basically, it's the same thing, right? Just the branding is different, but I think most of the ingredients, the formulas, but the rest of other stuff, the look and feel are pretty much the same thing, right? It's actually operated by the same people, right? Because of the licensing issue, Chatime will have to become T-Life, okay? And that's basically what licensing is all about. Now, subscription. We subscribe to our internet plans, right? You subscribe to your mobile plans, you pay 98 ringgit per month to retain your internet or phone subscription with Maxis, Celcom, and DG, right? So that comes as subscription business model, right? So you pay on a monthly basis. You don't pay upfront unless you are buying a phone from the telco. But if you are not buying a phone, you're just like trying to subscribe to one line, one SIM card. That's basically come at subscription basis. Now, the other example is Microsoft 365, right? So instead of buying Microsoft Office one-time fee, you got to fork out 256 ringgit, for this Microsoft Office, the genuine license. You can actually choose to subscribe. So instead of paying 200 ringgit upfront, I can subscribe to Microsoft Office 365, right, at 26 ringgit per month, right? You have the option to subscribe to Microsoft Office 365 online, right, by paying 26 ringgit per month. So that comes as subscription basis. Even for Zoom, right? For Zoom, we can pay $14 per month just to subscribe for Zoom Pro, okay? So the Zoom Professional Edition, which is what we are paying now, so that everybody can come in. There is no limit of 40 minutes per session. You can actually invite up to 250 participants at any one time, right? By subscribing to Zoom Pro. Okay, so this comes as examples of the subscription business model. Now move on. The shared savings, right? If you buy this, you buy that, you get further discount, right? So a lot of fast consumer moving goods in the market, like you're buying a shampoo. If you purchase a shampoo with the conditioner, you get 15% discount. That's called shared savings. This is typically very common for consumer goods, and even for Grab, right? Grab food. If you buy a meal, if you order a meal with drinks, right, you have further discounts, right? You get further discounts. Even at McDonald's value meals also doing this shared savings mechanism, right? So if you order a value meal compared to if you order a la carte meals, the price is going to be very different, right? There's more savings to order value meal rather than just to order things, in the a la carte ways, right? You order the Big Mac, you order one Big Mac a la carte. You order one so-called Coke a la carte. You order one fries a la carte. You add it up all together. It's going to cost more than you order the value meal, and therefore, you just order the value meal. Okay, so and that's basically about it. Okay. Okay, now let's move on. Consumables, right? So this is a one-time consumables. We'll have to move on a little bit. A lot to talk about, yeah, seriously. I can talk the whole day by doing examples. Okay, now let's put everything in place. So consumables are like, you're buying things like is wear and tear, right? So, replace and refill. So those are consumables, right? So you can buy like, we have this detergent, right? So like detergent, I think my families always love to buy the refill packs, right? So you have this refill packs, and I think that's not the best example. Okay, I give you one better example. We use printer, right? Your Barberjet printer at home, right? So at first, when you purchase your Barberjet printer at home, they give you free cartridges, right? Free cartridge. You have different colors, right? So the 4 primary colors, like the blue, the yellow, and the red, and the black, right? The black ink. So they give you free for the first time, right? So when you purchase the printer, and in the printer box itself, it comes with all these consumables, right? So it comes with all these free printer cartridges, right? You feel happy. Okay, once you finish the cartridges, what do you do? Oh shit, I got to buy a new one. Of course, I cannot throw away the printer and buy a new printer. I don't have to do that. I just have to buy the consumables, right? So these are refill cartridge that you have to purchase from the computer shop. Sometimes you don't get the original one, you get the refill pack and then refill the ink, and those are basically consumables. Okay, so it comes as a complete product first, right? When you purchase, when you make the first purchase, it comes with the consumables for the first time, but after that you have to keep on refilling. Another example is shaver. Men and women who shave. And of course, you buy this shaver, right? It comes with cartridges, right? So those cartridges that you can, slot in. And those cartridges are consumables. And you literally found out that, the shaver that comes with the initial free cartridges, it only costs 8 ringgit and 90 cents, right? I think for those of you who purchased the shaver, you know that, right? And when you go and buy the refill pack, right, the cartridges, right? Wow, it costs 20 ringgit. The cartridge costs more than the initial shaver. That's the way it is, right? These are consumables, right? So this is what we call consumables. And all these companies like P&G, Gillette, they are very smart, right? So they know that you have this shaver, you are unlikely to throw away the shaver, right? You are going to purchase the consumables, the refill, and therefore they make the refill pack more expensive than the initial pack that you purchase. Okay, doesn't make sense, right? So it's the same for printer as well. I can tell you most of the printer are actually selling at a loss, right? 200 ringgit printer, my God, the printer costs only 200 ringgit. But if you purchase the cartridges, wow, the cartridges is like it costs 99 ringgit for the black ink. I've my cartridges purchased recently. For the genuine one that I purchased from HP, it costs 99 ringgit. Doesn't make sense, right? The printer costs 200 ringgit, but the black cartridge itself costs 99 ringgit. It's very expensive, okay? And this is how they make money, right? This is also a business model itself. Okay, O&M, right? O&M is it is a very common in services business. Like, for example, you are getting contractors, right, to service your aircon. Your contractors are providing cleaning services, right? So like in the campus, we actually hire contractors to do cleaning services, right? So these are O&M. O&M, they charge you by the hour. So if I service this aircon for 2 hours, I'm going to charge you, 2 hours fees. So my 1 hour rate is 45 ringgit. So if you use me out for 2 hours service, then you got to pay for the service, the operating and maintenance fee, right? For 2 hours, that's 90 ringgit, right? So this is O&M. So typically for services industry, like hotel industry, like Airbnb, this is probably operating like the O&M, because you are counting by the days or